Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Judge Jeanine Pirro.
She's the outspoken host.
Judge Jeanine Pirro is dominating the headlines right now.
This is the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome, everyone, to the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. It is Easter Sunday for Christians around the world, and I hope everyone is enjoying their days so far. I mean, I have images of people in St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, dressed in their Easter finery, and in fact, the weather is good for us. I am happy to say, you've heard me complain about the weather for the last 6 months. Anyway, but I hope that whatever you're doing, you're enjoying your day today, because we are armed and ready to serve justice with all my great listeners on the Red Apple Audio Network. Today, because it is Easter Sunday, I'm going to have some interesting guests on the show, not so much hard political, although my open will be. I want to talk a little bit about religion. We've got some great guests today. We've got Father Steven Grau, who is a very popular priest from the Archdiocese of Chicago, and he serves as CEO and executive producer of Word on Fire Ministries. And after that, I have a very interesting guest, author and advocate Rachel Faulkner Brown, who is a Gold Star widow who has written a book. She is an author, and she talks about widows and the fact that she, like so many others, find themselves alone suddenly. And the name of the book is Never Alone Widows. So I'm looking forward to talking to these guests, and I think you will be too, but I want to say a few words about this week. I am flabbergasted. I am flabbergasted that a United States Senator from the United States Senate would make the decision to go to El Salvador to check on the well-being of a deported illegal immigrant. Now, the way the left is portraying this, they're saying, you could be disappeared in a moment. The Trump administration can make a decision and literally get you thrown out of the country in a moment's time, which is so crazy. But for a United States Senator to check on the well-being on an illegal in a foreign country, and by the way, you, me, the taxpayers, we paid for his travel to that country as well as his stay in the country. And he is there. He's made a decision to choose the side of someone who has entered our country illegally and unlawfully as a gotaway. Now, what is the significance, folks, of a gotaway? A gotaway is someone who doesn't come through a port of entry. All right, we get that. But he doesn't come through the sectors along with all of the other illegal immigrants who just pile into the country. He made sure that he was not caught, checked, spoken to, identified, or anything. He's a gotaway. All right. No one has any record of the guy. So he comes into this country, and there are 2 orders of deportation. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So we've got an illegal No one has any information on him. He intentionally is a gotaway, doesn't come through a recognized sector or port of entry. And in 2019, two judges, an immigration judge and an appellate judge, made the decision that he was a member of MS-13 and therefore he needs to be deported, not just as an illegal, but because he is an MS-13 gang member, okay? This, my friends, is due process. This is a due process per se. The court brought him in. He had a lawyer. He had his case. He ends up losing. He gets another lawyer that you and I paid for. He ends up losing in the appellate courts. And he decides that, and his lawyer gets him bail. Who's putting up the bail for this, folks? Who's putting up the bail for this? And he is out. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says, we've got even more here. We find out that in 2021, there is a request by his wife who has been pleading, and of course I'm talking about Abrego Garcia. His wife is pleading. He's a Maryland man, a Maryland father, a wonderful guy. No, he isn't. He's an illegal MS-13 gangbanger who beats his wife. Okay? I don't even know if she's his real wife or not. It doesn't matter. She sought an order of protection on two separate occasions, folks. She goes to our courts. He gets lawyers in our courts. And she says he punched her, he smacked her, he beat her, he ripped her clothes off. Not once, but twice she seeks an order of protection. Okay? So this guy's also a batterer. So we've got two courts who've given him due process and assessed whether or not he should be deported. We've got two courts where his wife, who's now pleading for him, sought orders of protection. We've got him as a designated terrorist organization member, which in itself is reason for deportation, and he's illegal. So where do we send him? We send him to El Salvador. That's where he's from. He says, I don't want to go back to El Salvador. There's another gang that doesn't like my gang. So really, we should keep him here? But the liberals, the left, they decide, you know what? I want to go make sure he's okay. This United States Senator, Senator Chris Van Hollen, is the same United States Senator who represents Rachel Morin, okay? Rachel Morin was murdered by a different illegal who was convicted of murder in his own country. All right? The senator never called the mother of Rachel Morin, who was beaten beyond recognition. Never. But he packs up his bags and he goes to make sure an illegal is okay. They apparently are having margaritas in El Salvador where he gets to talk to him, and it doesn't look like Abrego Garcia has lost any weight. Okay? Folks, this is beyond. If the Democrats want to make a decision to support illegals who are gangbangers, who beat their wives, who have due process and have been deported and should be deported, if that's where they want to be on a 90-10 issue, then you know what? So be it. Stay the course, Democrats, because you're going to lose. And folks, don't let them tell you you can be disappeared. All of the evidence is there. But anyway, I want to move on. I just had to get that out. We've got those great guests coming up. Father Steven Grau and Rachel Faulkner Brown, who are going to talk to us on issues a little more pertinent to Easter Sunday. Stay with us.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Judge Janine.
Hi, I'm Jeanine Pirro, and this is Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Today, we're talking about protecting you from those who would commit violent crimes against you. But you also have to protect yourself from those who would commit economic crimes against you, and you don't even know about it.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Cadillac Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Cadillac.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
And now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money?
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original. Which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is the CEO and executive producer of Word on Fire Ministries, Father Steve Grau. Father Steve is also a priest, a Roman Catholic priest in the Archdiocese of Chicago. But through the CEO of Word on Fire Ministries, which is a nonprofit global media apostolate, it supports the work of Bishop Robert Barron and reaches millions of people to draw them into or back into the Catholic faith. So, Father, on this Easter Sunday, I couldn't be more happy to have you on the show. I graduated from Notre Dame High School and St. Peter and Paul Grammar School and Middle School in Elmira, New York, which I'm sure you've never heard of. But I was raised Catholic. And, today is the day that we all understand is the day that Jesus rose from the dead. We all pretty much know that story. And the story is a wrong word, obviously, but it is something that we've carried through for over 2,000 years. How is it that this, with all the attempts to debunk it over decades and centuries, continues to be the strongest religion in Christianity?
Well, the thing is that it is a story. And it's the greatest story ever told because it's the story that's true. It happened in real space, in real time, in real history. God in Jesus Christ rose from the dead. It's astounding. And there were witnesses to his resurrection. People saw him, talked to him, even ate meals with him after everyone had presumed he had been crucified, utterly killed, tortured and killed. And he returned to us, living, alive, in the flesh, in the same body that was crucified. He came back alive. And that's why it's the greatest story ever told, because it's true. It really happened.
Well, the interesting part of all this, Father Steven Grau, is that, a lot of people say, well, it's legend, it's this, it's that. But you can read things in the New York Times that are fact based on anonymous sources. And when you think about that, none of this is anonymous sources. None of this, all of the books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they're by people who were the witnesses.
Correct. The Gospels are eyewitness accounts.
Right.
So it's a distillation of things eyewitnesses saw and experienced about Jesus Christ, the most important being his suffering, his death, and his resurrection from the dead. And so when you're reading the Gospels, you're not reading kind of a myth or a legend, something that is kind of positioned out of time, like once upon a time or in a galaxy far, far away or something like that. No, it's being positioned in historical circumstances with historical references. And so that's the kind of compelling nature of the Gospels, but that's also what makes them unnerving, because they're saying there was this great intervention in human experience and human history, and it really and truly happened. And we saw it. We saw it as it happened. So again, that's the astounding nature of the testimony, but of the Gospels themselves.
You know, the cross, I mean, it can mean many things, right? It apparently was the standard of justice that they used, you know, when they were punishing someone. So many of us wear crosses, you know, not as a symbol of justice, but instead as a symbol of opportunity and redemption. How do you see it, Father Steve Grau?
Well, I see the cross as a representation of the greatest act of love that has ever appeared in this world. Because Jesus Christ is God, decides for himself that he so loves humanity, he so loves the world, that he's going to immerse himself fully into human experience in all its facets, in all its raw facts. And that includes being born, gestating in the womb of his mother, being born, growing up, and finally dying. And the death that's imposed on him, he turns into an act of love, because he says to us in his death, I will go into the worst circumstances that you can possibly imagine. And you will too at some point in your life. Maybe it won't be a cross, but you will experience pain and suffering and grief and loss. And when you run into those circumstances, I'm waiting for you right there. That's how God positions himself on the cross, so that when we experience those things, which we inevitably will, all the raw facts, all the negativities of life, he's right there. And how do we know that? Because of what he did on the cross. And then you mentioned another thing, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Oh, how many times in our lives are we looking for forgiveness? So many things that we've done and failed to do that we can't resolve. But God in Christ says, I'll forgive you. I will shower upon you a mercy that is so undeserved, it will overcome every lack and loss in yourself.
You know, I was reading a few articles before this interview, and, you know, there was a discussion as to whether or not, you know, one's faith is better kept to oneself, or, you know, juxtaposed is, you know, the individuals out there wearing faith on the sleeve and on his sleeves in a self-aggrandizing ways, you know, for value added to his life. It was kind of an interesting discussion, and how in some difficult times we hide our faith, as you could see in certain parts of the world. You know, whether it's your Catholic faith or your Jewish faith, it doesn't matter. You know, a belief in God is, I think, encompasses all the faiths.
I think belief in God, sure, but then that always raises the question, which is the true God? Which is the true God? Who's the God that's worth believing in? Because we have many gods in our lives. Human beings are great idol makers. We make gods. We make gods out of money or wealth, pleasure, power, honors, all sorts of things. But which is the true God? And Christians believe that God in Christ is the true God because of what he does for us. And he does something extraordinary, and that's what Christians are celebrating over Easter. And the other thing about, you know, wearing your faith on your sleeve or whatever, you know, I often tell people that Christianity has brought something into my life that is, I think, remarkable, in as much as I think I would be a far worse person if I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ in the church. It's made me a better person. It's made me a better man. And just on that benefit alone, I'm perfectly willing to share that with others, because if it made me a better person, it certainly can help make better people out of us all. So that's what I'm offering when I share my faith with others is, look, I found this way that changed my life in a very positive direction. And I can tell you about it if you're willing to listen, but this is what made me a better man, a better person.
You know, and on Easter Sunday, I think Christians, as they celebrate across the world, I think that they feel reinvigorated as well. I mean, it's not resurrected, but certainly to see what Jesus went through in the Holy Week before his death is just so painful and such a reminder. And it is so powerful when you go into church and you see so many Catholics who are willing and continuing with their faith and the belief and the redoing, of the Stations of the Cross and all that. I mean, in spite of everything that has happened to the Catholic Church and across the world, to religion, where religion, is somehow demonized in our society today.
Yeah. I think that demonization sometimes comes from demons. Sometimes it comes from the actions of Christians themselves, that we don't live up to the ideals and faith that we profess. But, Jesus faced opposition, and he assured his followers, you're going to face opposition too. And then when you do, you got to decide what you're going to make of it. Are you going to take that opposition? Are you going to become bitter and cruel yourself? Or are you going to transform it through the power of love, like what Jesus did on the cross?
All right. Father Steve Grau, I want you to hang on for a moment. We're going to go to a quick break, but I want to come back to you with a question before we end this interview. Hold on.
Sure,
Thanks for being with us.
Sure.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner, by knockout, is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for an Oikos remix. Like a crunchy storm of sea salt praline pretzels, dark chocolate, and butter toffee, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Oikos remix varieties with epic mix-ins and 11 grams of complete protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
We're shipping Mother's Day gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send gift baskets?
For sure.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit theupsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Visit a store today.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. I'm going to continue the conversation that we've been having with Father Steven Grau of the Archdiocese of Chicago, talking about Easter and the Catholic religion. Father, again, thank you for being with us. What is, how can Catholics continue with the religion over the next few months? You'll see the churches are jam-packed on, Easter Sunday, and people are engaged and people are enthused and happy about this holiday. It is a happy holiday, happy Easter. Mm-hmm. How do we keep Catholics engaged over the next few months when there aren't any events for us to celebrate?
Mm-hmm. I think that faith is a practice of your life and it's a habit of your life. And it's like exercise. If you don't exercise, it gets harder and harder to do. And people are occasional exercisers a lot. They'll do a little, but then they'll give up on it. And faith we're in a similar position in regards to our faith, that you have to practice to get the benefit. And I would say that we have these great feasts and seasons of the church's year, like Christmas and Easter, to kind of reawaken a need to practice your faith. And I would just invite people who are listening to take this as the moment, take it as the opportunity. Okay, you're going to come back for Easter. Come back next Sunday too. And then the Sunday after that. And if you develop that practice, that habit, it's going to bear benefits in your life. I can assure you of that. And you just believe in my metaphor, believe in my example. You exercise more, you eat right more. Those are habits. Those are practices. And you end up feeling better and better and better and better. You get better at it too. It's the same thing with faith. Take the same disposition, take the same approach. So let this Easter be the time that you renew yourself in the practice of your faith.
What a great metaphor. There's no question about it, that the closer we become to God, the more we stay in touch with God, the more we reap the benefits. Father Steven Grau, I want to thank you for joining us. Again, everyone, he's the CEO and executive producer of Word on Fire Ministries. And Father, I know you have online ministries. Can you tell us where they are?
wordonfire.org. So they're all of Bishop Barron's sermons, his courses, his teachings are there, and lots of other stuff too. It's going to enliven your faith. It's going to challenge your mind. So go to wordonfire.org, and you can find yourself in Jesus there.
All right. Father Steven Grau, happy Easter, and thank you for being with us.
Happy Easter, Judge, to you and your family.
Thank you so much. And up next here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will be speaking with author Rachel Faulkner Brown, a Gold Star widow and someone who has a lot to say. Joining me now is a very interesting person. She is an author and advocate. Her name is Rachel Faulkner Brown. Please join me in welcoming her to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Let me tell you a little bit about her. By her mid-30s, Rachel Faulkner Brown had already faced the devastating loss of two husbands. At 23, she lost her first husband to an aneurysm. Her second husband was an Air Force pilot who tragically died in a fighter jet. And she turned the grief that she had into something positive and a strength for others. She, of course, is now a Gold Star widow, raising two young children alone. And Rachel, we are thrilled to have you on, and you have been through a lot. But, you know, there are now over 11 million widows living in the United States. And in a couple of weeks, not even, May 3rd is National Widows Day. You, though, are part of a select group of widows. Talk to me about your experience and what you did with that experience.
Yes, well, it's an honor to meet you, Judge. Thank you for having me. I really believe that widows are some of the most powerful people in the world. I'm so blessed and honored to be in that club that nobody wants to be in, but I really believe that God has done something so special through, my story. I never asked for it, but He's allowed me to love on widows who are behind me and give them the hope that their life is not over. And that's what most widows believe. Like, my best days are behind me. And we've just allowed them to experience community. And they say that grief and trauma, the number one indicator, they did like a 40-year study, and the number one indicator that someone would recover from grief and trauma, it wasn't like how long the grief was and how bad the trauma was. It was community. And that's what we've created through Never Alone Widows, is just allowing widows to find each other. It's hard to find each other. We don't wear like name tags that say I'm a widow.
Yep.
And this gives women all over the U.S. a way to find each other. And I love it. I'm so honored.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, after your first husband died of an aneurysm, at a very young age, I imagine.
27, yeah.
Unbelievable. You then get married again. You have two children. I mean, life is good. I mean, who would think? I mean, he was an Air Force jet pilot, but you just don't expect it. I bet you almost feel like you're invincible. You've lost one husband, and even though your new one is in the military, it's not going to happen. It doesn't strike twice.
I said those words. I mean, I told Blair, a lot, actually. I said, oh, my goodness, we've gotten the pass. Like, we've already suffered, the number one stressor in your whole life is losing a spouse. I've checked that box. I've checked the suffering box. We're good. We've got our card. And that just isn't the way life works. In this world, you will have troubles. And, unfortunately, they don't stop. And it's how you react to them. And I think for me, having a fighter pilot for a husband, I mean, I really did believe this is my, he was my redemption story. He was, going to make all this hard stuff better. And that is true. I was blessed with 2 kids through his life and just the military community. And, I was forever changed being a part of the military community and the way that they supported us. But at the same time, there was no, I knew that his job was dangerous, but it's actually more dangerous to drive a car than it is to fly a jet. We all know that. But at the end of the day, it was his day. He died 10 days before his 40th birthday. Oh. And actually next week, it's April 23rd, it'll be 18 years. And I just, I look back and I'm like, wow, what a life that he lived as a fighter pilot. And he said, if I died in the jet, I will die happy, Rachel. And he did. He did that. And he died, loving the next generation of fighter pilots and just being such an amazing teacher. He had just a beautiful career.
Well, you turned it into something special, that you have the largest inspirational ministry in the United States. It serves widows in over 80 cities nationwide. And when you talk about community, I imagine that it is hard to find other widows. And I mean, you came up with something so simple, but it has created an incredibly powerful impact. And you wrote a book, Never Alone Widows. Tell us about the book.
Well, the book is a 365-day devotional. It's actually called The Widow's Might, and it's just a play on words from the Bible. And, we just believe that every day you can get a little bit stronger. And that was my story for sure. My mom, the day Blair died, she said, honey, I just want you to take a shower every day. It's going to wash the grief off every day. And it did. And more grief came on. And I took another shower the next day. People always say, what's your best advice? I'm like, take a shower every day because I'm serious. I mean, it is the greatest form of self-care, and to let those tears just flow and let it wash off of you. And it's powerful. And the book is, widows, our brains are absolutely scrambled when our spouse dies. I mean, everybody knows it's called widow's fog. I mean, we all know what it is. And if you're a widow, you're shaking your head because
but
really
other
can't.
People don't. Other people don't, and that's why it was so important to have you on, Rachel. I mean, tell us.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is, people always want to give big books with lots of chapters, and you really can't read. I mean, it was years before I could read a full book. And I'm not sure my brain has ever really recovered. I hate to say that, I hate to admit it, but I do think it's true. You are having to hold so many details, and really it is a protective mechanism for the body to be able to survive, because, shock and trauma is a very powerful force. It's the number one stressor on the body, especially losing a spouse. And then 70% of widows have a major health event in the first year after their husband dies.
Really?
So, yes. So reading a book, not high on the list, let me tell you. But what is high on the list is hope. It is very, very high on the list. And that's why I wrote the book with 200 plus other widows who said, I'm going to give the next widow hope in the dark. And that's what we did. It's 225 words per day. And we just inspire them to believe that, truly that mercy does come and joy does come in the morning. And it is easy to believe that you cannot hold joy and sorrow, and you can, Judge. You can hold hold joy and sorrow. It's possible. Yeah. And so we just give them that glimmer of hope in 200 words, every day, and it's beautiful. It's another widow's revelation in her dark place.
Well, it is really incredible. It's something that we don't think about, but I thought it was important to have you on, Rachel, on Easter Sunday, because you have been through a lot. You have lost 2 husbands. You're still a young, middle-aged woman. And, you have raised 2 children alone. You have survived and you have thrived, and you are, walking the walk and not just talking the talk. And on this Easter Sunday, I mean, do you have any words or any thoughts for, other women similarly situated?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at the cross and you can look at Jesus's life and you can say, my goodness, he all was lost, right? All was lost on Friday. And most of us live in that Saturday space, where it's like, what is happening? My life is over. The person that we put our hope in is gone. And that's the way a lot of widows feel. But Resurrection Sunday, honestly, you can be resurrected into a new life, and you can heal. Wholeness is possible. I'm living proof. I've done this twice. I know it's possible. And if you can't look at anyone else, you can look at my life and what God has done through thousands and thousands of other widows through Never Alone, and say, gosh, if he can do it for her, he can do it for me, because he's in the business of resurrection. He is. That's his business. He takes dead things and makes them come to life, and that's what he can do with the widow's life, anyone's life.
We talk about Easter Sunday, but at the same time, at some point you questioned your own religion. Like, how can this happen to me twice? What was that about?
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, the question that most people ask is, why did this happen to me? And I will say I asked that question. No doubt
twice.
About it.
No, once twice. It's okay, but twice.
Yeah, twice. I know. And I think after the second one, Judge, I just realized that's the wrong question. I can't keep asking that question. I've got to ask a better question. And the question was, who did this happen for? And honestly, that was what led me to freedom. It led me to not holding God on the hook for something he didn't cause. In this world, we're going to have troubles, and there's an enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy your life. And it's not God. He comes to repair and replace and resurrect. And I think at the end of the day, who did this happen for is a better question for anyone in pain who's questioning their faith, because there's somebody behind you who needs what you have, and they need you to be healed, whether it's your children, it's your family, it's the people who watch your life. People are watching, whether you think they are or not. And I think they need to see hope. They need to see it lived out, and they need to see someone heal and go before them.
Rachel, that is really profound. Who did it happen for? I mean, what is your background? I mean, did you study philosophy, or I mean, was this? I mean, really? I mean, it's really profound what you've been saying.
I know. Well, I think at the end of this is going to be my TED Talk one day, Judge. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, you want to make sense of your life, I mean, you want to make sense of it. And the only way that I can make sense of it was to look around and go, I've got 2 little kids who need their mom to be healthy, and they need to know that God is not punishing us. They didn't do anything bad. And they need to see me the best mom that I could be. And I think at the end of the day, my parents raised me in the church. I knew God from a young age. The bedrock of my faith is that God was good. And so I'm like, if he's good, then he can't be bad today and good tomorrow. And so I had to really wrestle with the mystery. If he's good, he's got to be good all the time. And I just got to that place where I was like, I can doubt his goodness, or I can dig in and believe that he's good all the time, and that he's love, and he loves me, and he cares more about me than anything else. And that was the bedrock. And fortunately, I had that before my husband's died. I had a lot of that. Now, did I wrestle? Yes, I did. But at the end of the day,
Rachel, you absolutely had to.
I did. Yeah. Oh, I definitely did. But I was emotionally bankrupt. I think this is the other thing too. I didn't have a lot of feelings. I was just strong, and I just gritted it out. And there is a lot of good in that. And then there's a lot of things that you have to feel to heal. And I didn't do that well, which is why I started the ministry. Honestly, I was like, I don't want another girl to have to repeat this, because I had to. You have to grieve. You do. And I just was like, I'm going to wave the banner of hope, and I'm going to skip the grief process. I'm just going to be good at grieving, and I'm just going to give God all the glory. And there is a process to grief. And if you don't go through it, you'll have to go through it at some point. So you might as well just go through it. You can't go around it.
Well, folks, the website is www.neveralonewidows.com. Rachel Faulkner Brown, pretty spectacular lady. You are a very powerful voice for so many women. Her website, folks, is www.rachelfaulknerbrown.com, and she can be found on Instagram at Rachel Faulkner Brown. Now, Rachel, I don't do that very often, but I think people need to hear you. And
Thank you.
God bless you, and happy Easter.
Happy Easter, Judge.
You're welcome. And up next here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will gavel out with my closing argument. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show.
Click fast and save big. Shop Blinds.com's Spring Cyber Monday sale and elevate your space with new custom window treatments today. DIY or let our pros handle everything from measure to install. Blinds.com makes upgrading your home easy with free virtual consultations, honest pricing, and free samples delivered to your door. Shop confidently with our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Hurry to Blinds.com's Spring Cyber Monday sale now. Save up to 45% with minimum purchase plus a free measure. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
All right, everybody, now it's time for me to gavel out with my closing argument. Well, folks, on this Easter Sunday, I had two somewhat different guests, both of them from totally different disciplines. One a priest, another a widow, talking about pain and suffering and grief and loss, one on the personal end and one on, the religious end and, the negativity of life. Whether you're a widow and you've been hit with, two husbands who died in a very short period of time, or, as Catholics and Christians, we analyze the suffering and the grief and the loss of the death of Jesus and the negativity. There is hope on the other side. And obviously the offer of hope in the Catholic religion, with Jesus dying and his death on the cross, which, brought us the redemption that we need. And of course, with Rachel, as it relates to widows and saying, who were the deaths for, and what did it mean? And both of them very, very powerful messages. Obviously, I'm a Catholic. Today is a very, very important religious holiday for me. It is a very positive, happy one. Jesus has risen from the dead. It is something that, has been part of my life since I was in kindergarten. And faith is very important to me, and it should be to you as well. And on this Easter Sunday, I wish you health and happiness and all the blessings that God can give you. Never forget your religion. Never forget your faith. We live in times where it's very difficult sometimes, where, religion is demonized, where, political groups, tend to try to, destroy or demonize people because of their religion. Religion, folks, will be here, and Catholicism will be here until the day we are removed from this planet. No one will take that away from us. And I thank God for that. I can't believe we're out of time already. Make sure you join us right back here next week. Same time, same place for the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Have a great day and happy Easter, and God bless you and your family.